Welcome to the 2021 Golf Summer Series race number 15. Today we're here at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the Canadian Tire 250. For the first time ever in Summer Series history, we're here at this historic road course that's a little less than an hour away from downtown Toronto for our second ever race here in the Great White North. But before we get started, let's take a look at our starting lineup. So on the front row, we got the 22 of Brayden Beal, who came this race inside the top 10 in points, and next to him, the 88 car of Devin Payment. Row 2, Jordan Forbes and its movement. Row 3, Dan Matteillo and David Johnson, who won a last road course race at Watkins Glen. Row 4, Kyle Salmon and Nelson Reeves. Row 5, Dominic Payment and Jason Albert. Row 6, Ada Robertson and Kellen Baker, who won a last road course race internationally at Abu Dhabi. Row 7, Herbert Solomon and RC Gamer. Row 8, Caleb Rose and Matthew Hill. Row 9, points leader Joe T and Jordan Stout. Row 10, Lipsy, who's from Canada, and Exzel Random J. Row 11, we got another Canadian, John McFadden in 89, and Exzel Brad Reim, who won a last race at Canada in the streets of Toronto last year. Row 12, Hoodlum and Dan McTrain. Row 13, Keyshawn Richardson and Owen Miles. Row 14, Ryan Wilson and Nunnigan Scott. Row 15, Ross McTrain and Brayden Carruthers. Row 16, last week's winner Nick Sant and Exzel Johnny Hernandez. Row 17, Trey Smith and Matthew Burnett. And starting last in row 18 is Rainville in the 8 car. And now it is time for the starting command here in Canadian Tire.
Drivers, start your engines.
Let's take a look at the track info here for tonight's race. So we're going to go 18 laps on this 2.5 mile long road course with the maximum elevation being just a little under 1,100 feet or 365 meters. And as for the weather, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, nice, with 12 mile per hour towards northeast. And with that being said, the pace car is already down pit road. As for the second time ever, the Summer Series is under green here in Canada. In order, a great start for the 22 of Brayden Beal into turn number 1, but Devin Payment on the inside is going to make it stake and will clear Beal for the lead. But heading up the hill, Beal is still trying to fight back to Devin's inside as we come down turn number 2. Could Jordan Forbes in a 6-1 Posh make it 3 wide as Devin gets in the dirt going into Quebec corner. Into turn number 3, Beal and Payment still side by side. Devin with the slight advantage. Down this long straightaway and into turn number 4, Beal and Payment still side by side. Beal with the slight advantage into turn number 4 as they head into turn 5A and B, aka Moss Corner. Probably one of the hardest parts here at this track. Have to go really, really slow. We have to really be on that brake as Devin's going to get around Beal as they head down the Mario Andretti straightaway containing turns 6 and 7. Devin and Beal still side by side into straightaway going into turn number 7. Looks like Devin will clear Beal for the lead. Into turn number 8, Beal got a great run off Payment. Is he able to capitalize, but Payment still holds on going into the S's. And out of White's corner, aka turn number 10, Devin's going to lead the first lap here at Canadian Tire. Of course, going into this race, Devin was 19th in the point standings, while also over 3 positions after last week's race in Atlanta. He was up towards the front in the early part of that race, however had to settle for a 17th place finish. There's a 22 of Brayden Beal. If Beal does win here today at Canadian Tire, he will be the second ever driver to win in the 22 car here in the country of Canada after Brad Reim's aforementioned one last year at the streets of Toronto. There's Jordan Forbes in 61 currently 3rd, trying to hold off movement in that 5 car. Those drivers came to this race 20th and 17th in the points respectively. Both having up and down seasons. Of course, Movement has that win at Texas World back in race number 3. And out of Moss Corner, that was a great run from Movement as he's right behind the back bumper of that 61. Down Andretti straightaway, Movement looks to the outside of Forbes, but Forbes will hold on. as we'll come down the block. And off Andretti started movement, still thinking about it until he tucks back down the line. And behind those two is the number 2, David Johnson, who was of course your winner from the last road course race at Watkins Glen. However, of course, both tracks have many, many differences, with one of them, of course, being how narrow this track is compared to other road courses we've had in the Summer Series in the past. There's the Firecracker 400 winner Nelson Reeves, currently in 4th. He came to this race 5th in points after getting a top 5 run at last week's race in Atlanta. There's Jason Albert in the 80 car, currently in 7th. He also had a good run in Atlanta last week, as he finished 10th in that race. And behind him is his teammate Dan Matteillo, currently in 8th, actually having one of his best runs all season, as Matteillo came to this race all the way back in 32nd in points, but did gain a position over the 90 of Matthew Hill. Meanwhile, back to Johnson and Reeves. Reeves trying to get a run off for Johnson. This is for the 5th position, as it looks like the top 6 are pulling away from the rest of the field going into the Moss corner. And there's Johnson looking to the inside of moving as moving gets in the grass here a little bit. Johnson still side by side, going into Andretti straightaway. Looks like Johnson will clear movement for 4th. It's now Reeves is side by side with the 5 cars and continue down the straightaway. Reeves in movement still side by side off Andretti straightaway and going into the S's of turns 8 and 9. It looks like into the S's, Reeves will clear movement for the 5th position. Meanwhile, going into White's corner, Devin, who just started a lap here today, lap number 4 of 18 this time by. John goes his brother Dominic, and Aiden Robinson hard into the wall off turn number 9. As the caution will come out for the first time here today, Canadian Tire. Meanwhile, off turn number 1, looks like Devin will have the advantage over the rest of the field, as it looks like it'll complete one more lap before the pace car pulls the front of the field. Brendan Beal still in 2nd in the 22, Jordan Forbes in 3rd in the 61. David Johnson and Watkins Glen Williams in 4th, and Nelson Reeves will run off the top 5. Going to the rest of the top 10, Kellen Baker currently in 9th. Came this race 3rd in points after a much-needed runner-up in Atlanta. Same could also be said for his teammate Kyle Salmon, currently in 10th, as he finished 3rd in Atlanta last week behind his teammate. Meanwhile, going into Moss corner, looks like Forbes are going to stack up the rest of the field as Devin and Beal continue to pull away. You can see now, just now, Forbes and Johnson just now entering the Andretti straightaway, as Payment and Beal are about to reach the S's. Out of turn number 9 into turn number 10, Devin's going to come back to lead the field once again to complete lap number 4 of 18. Current gap that time by between the 88 and the 22 was a little below 9 tenths per second, and this caution is definitely going to be a really big break for the 22 and the rest of the field, as they all have a chance to get around the 88 car. And here comes the rest of the field, led by Forbes and Johnson. I think Forbes really held up with the rest of the field as he went into turn number 5. But thankfully, with this caution coming out, they're able to catch up with the 88 and the 22. As old Dan McTrain goes around in turn number 2. None against Scott go around. John McFadden hoodwilm with damage. And Nixon and Rainville have heavy damage on their front ends. Well, let's take a look at the instant replay to see what caused our first caution, as well as what the hell happened off turn number 2 just now. So starting with the Dominic Payment Aiden Robertson incident, this is coming off turn number 8, where Payment was side by side with the 11 car, Jordan Stout. So Payment just comes down on Robertson and just both from hard into the tire barriers in the turn number 9. Hopefully these guys are alright, as that was a really hard lick for both of them. Well, let's go on board with Robertson here. Yeah, Payment just came down. Robertson just nowhere to go. He's just along for the ride. My God, that was a hard hit for both the 55 and the 1. And now for the incident under caution, watch the 37 of Dan McTrain as he comes down the hill at turn number 2. So I don't think either the 67 held up the 17 to Joe T, and just as a result, everybody else just got held up and sent everyone around and spinning and hitting each other. Holdo making contact with the 89 John McFadden, and they're going to see Nixon and Rainville getting the worst of it as they're going to go on board with last week's winner here. Yeah, just nothing he can do, and then Vale just rams in the back of Nixon. Don't check that will end both Nixon and Vale's days here at Canadian Tire. as they're under caution already here in the Great White North. Welcome back to the Golf Summer Series here from Canadian Tire. We're about to go back green where the 55 of Dominic Payment and the 1 of Ada Robertson slammed into the tire barriers at this point in the track right here. In addition to the 37 of Dan McTrain stacked up a lot of drivers in the field, which sent the 8 car of Reim Beal and the 52 of Nixon in the garage area. Meanwhile in the race, the leaders of Devin Payment and Brayden Beal lead the field back to green here in Canada. And a great restart for Brayden Beal as he looked to the outside of Payment going into turn number 1. Side by side for the lead, looks like out of turn number 1, Beal will clear Devin Payment. Payment now side by side of fourth for a second, as he now gets to the inside of Beal going down turn number 2. In the Clayton corner, the 22 and 88 still side by side as Sports gets in the grass. In the Quebec corner, Beal is still with the advantage, but Devin is still fighting back on an inside as they head down the straightaway. David Johnson also trying to look to the inside of Jordan Forbes up this hill, but Forbes will come to block. Down the hill and into Moss corner, Devin with the advantage, but Beal to the outside of Payment as they're still side by side. So again, really tricky corners. Beal will have the advantage off turn number 5, heading down to Andretti straightaway. Looks like going into the turn, Beal will clear Payment for the lead. The 22 car to the lead here at Canadian Tire. Devin's still trying to fight back on the inside, trying to get a run off the 22. Looks like he will. And off the straightaway into the S's, Beal will come to block the 88. As Devin's right on the back bumper of that 22 car as we're on board from here. Coming to lap number 8 of 18. Devin's backing off a little bit. Will Beal pull away going into turn number 1? Looks like he will, as that was a great corner entry for that 22 car. Devin's going to lose a lot of ground as they head up the hill. But out of Clayton corner and into Quebec corner, Devin is still right behind Beal, ready to pounce if that 22 car makes a mistake. Down the hill and into turn number 4, and into Moss corner of turn number 5. As I mentioned, it's a really heavy braking zone. You can either get a really good run off somebody or pull away. As it looks like Beal will pull away from Payment as he had a great entry into Moss corner as he now head down Andretti straightaway. As Devin's going to lose a lot of time to that 22. And while all that was happening, the 2 car, David Johnson, has actually catched up a little bit to both Beal and Payment. There's the 61 of Jordan Forbes still in 4th. Behind him, Nelson Rees in the 16 is still in 5th. And as you can see, there's actually a decently sized gap between the 61 and 16 as it come down to the S's and come to lap number 9 of 18. Movement down to 6th in that 5 car. And of course, if you remember, Movement started this race 3rd and was actually running 4th through the first couple laps until both the 16 and the 61 were able to get around him. There's his teammate Dan Matteillo in the 14, still in 7th. In fact, 3 out of the 4 Albert Racing drivers are currently inside the top 10, of course the exception being Nick Sand, the 52, who's involved in the wreck under caution. But besides that, it's been a really good day thus far for Albert Racing as they try to chase down their 2nd straight GSS win. There's the 21 of Kellen Baker. Still in 9th, came this race 4th as he looks to the outside of Albert going into Andretti straightaway. Of course, Baker won a last international race held on a road course at Abu Dhabi last year. And of course, if you remember that race last year, Baker should have dominated from the pole, leading every single lap. As into the S's this time by Baker, still side by side with Albert for this 8th position. It looks like into turn number 9, Baker will clear Albert to move up to the 8th position. As we come to lap number 10 of 18, the halfway point here in today's race. Albert tucks in the 9th, while Stallman, Baker's teammate, is still in 10th. Of course, Stallman, as I mentioned, finished 3rd last week in Atlanta, and because of that, he was able to move up 5 positions in points, up to 16th. There's RC Gamer in the 42, as he came this race all the way back in 34th position in points. Of course, if you remember the last road course race at Watkins Glen, RC was in contention for the win all day until coming down to pit road, coming to the white flag. There's Matthew Hill in the 90. Hill came this race a position above RC in the points 33rd, as both these Summer Series rookies have a combined top 5 order of just 1. There's the 67 of Herbert Solomon. He came this race 21st in points after a pretty decent point stand in Atlanta. That's out of turn number 5. I hope Solomon looks to the inside of Hill and will clear him for the 12th position. That was a really good pass there by Solomon, as now Jordan Stout looks to the inside of Hill for 13th. Once again, side by side down the Andretti straightaway. Looks like Hill will have the advantage over Stout going into the S's. But Stout is still fighting back on an outside. Will Stout clear him going into turn number 9 here? Looks like he will. Jordan Stout up to 13th in that 11 car. And that will cost Hill another position down to 14th. There's Caleb Rose currently 15th in that 95 car. Currently so far for the rookie in 5 races, 1 top 10 coming from the Firecracker 400 in his first ever start. There's his teammate in Canadian Lipsy, who came this race 23rd in points. Definitely a pretty underwhelming season for that 9 team. There's the 53 of Random J, as he came this race 3rd in points, coming off a top 15 run in his home track Atlanta. Random has been pretty hit or miss at these road courses, with the only real road course he's found success in being the Charlotte Roval, getting a top 10 in both the Roval races we've had in the Summer Series. And there's the points leader, Joe T in the 17, who's currently in 18th behind the 53 car of Random J. And with several point leaders being in front of him, as I mentioned, Random J's in front of him, Kellen Baker, Nelson Reeves. Joe T's gap over the rest of the field in points could potentially decrease by the end of the day. There's a 37 of Dan McTrain. He came this race 25th in points, barely above that top 25 cutoff at Eldora coming up on Wednesday to be locked in the main event. McTrain's currently 19th for Owen Miles in the 60 will round off the top 20. And there's a 40 of Bradley Reim, who, as I mentioned, of course, won our last Canadian race in the streets of Toronto last year. So far, that 40 cars look really underwhelming here at Canadian Tire. There's an 86 of Nuttigan Scott. He came this race 14th after a really solid run in Atlanta, getting him 6 spots in the point standings. And there's 2nd in points, Keisha Arnson, the 24. After the run the 24 team was not looking for, as he came this race 3 points behind the 17 car. Same could also be said for his teammate John McFadden in 24th. In fact, so far, no Pontiac is inside this top 10, so Pontiac so far having a really mediocre day here at Canadian Tire, as our highest driver, Jordan Stout, is currently 13th. The Winter Street Stocks champion, Ryan Wilson, currently 25th, while Brayden Carruthers is in 26th. Currently, Carruthers is below the top 25 and 30th in points after kicking off the season at Armour Digital with a win. So Carruthers definitely got to hope a miracle happens here today at Canadian Tire. Roadster driver and team that were the point leaders during the first couple races of the year will have to race their way in to Eldora. There's the 3 of Hoodlum, currently in 27th, for Ross McTrain in the 35 and the 28th, as both those drivers received damage from the Dan McTrain incident under caution. There's your IRP winner, Matthew Burnett, in 29th. In this race, 26th in points, while Johnny Hernandez trying to defend his 30th position over Trey Smith in the 66. Hernandez came this race 24th in points. That, again, that 46 team has not had a break at all ever since the Firecracker 400, as they went from being inside the top 10 in points all the way down to, as I mentioned, below the top 20. Same could also be said for the 66 of Trey Smith, as going into our first road course in Crown Jewel at the Roval, he was the points leader, but now going into this race, he was 27th, causing one of his sponsors, Secure Patreon, to drop funding completely with the exception of Darlington in September. So after a good season gone bad for not just Smith, but the entirety of Jacone Racing here in this 2021 Summer Series season. Meanwhile, back up front as Brendan Beal continues to lead. We're on board with the 88 car, Devin Payment once again. Last time by, the gap between the top 2 was a little over 8 tenths of a second, which is of course very similar to the gap between Payment and Beal when Payment was the leader just before our last caution came out. And speaking of which, that 22 car has led every single lap ever since our restart. Coming to lap number 14 and 18 this time by, 5 laps to go here at Canadian Tire. It looks like that time by, Payment has actually closed up the gap a little bit, which him and Beal, approximately by a tenth, now down to 7 tenths of a second. David Johnson's also closed down that gap by roughly 2 tenths of a second, now down to 1.41 seconds. But right now, the 22 of Brendan Beal is the man to beat as he tried to chase down his second GSS win of the season after getting his first at Myrtle Beach back in June. And if Beal does indeed hold on and win here today, this will be the third time out of the 4 international races we've had in the summer series that a real fan driver has gone to victory lane. As you're going to car slow and clean corners, the 37 Dan McTrain. It was a 20th. Oh, Hernandez rear ends him into turn number 3. Trey Smith at 66 also involved as the caution will come out finally here in Canadian Tire. And I really think they should have threw that caution a while ago because McTrain was slow going into turn number 1. Not a really good call by GSS officials there to keep the race under green, as now both Hernandez and Smith have heavy damage. Meanwhile, coming off Andretti straightaway, Brayden Beal still has the lead over Devin Payment, going through the S's of turns 8 and 9. As it looks like he'll lead the field back to the stripe, coming to only 4 laps to go. And much like in Mexico City and Watkins Glen, cleanup crews are actually pretty quick here, so we're going to restart the race. Only 2 laps to go. And much like we saw at Watkins Glen, a big question for these drivers is pit stops, as so far everybody's going to stay out, as this caution is going to be a perfect opportunity to save as much fuel as you can to make it to the end of the race. And there you see some of the damaged cars that brought out this caution, as we're going to take a look at the instant replay to find out why. So all just started in the front straightaway going into turn number 1 on lap number 14, as at this point right here, McTrain was in 20th. So going into turn number 1 here, McTrain just slows down all of a sudden. I think something must have broke in that 37 car, as both Richardson and McFadden nearly hit him, swerving to avoid that 37. I really think they should do a caution here, but it was still green. Hold'em nearly hit him there. His brother Ross, Burnett getting by. And then right here off turn number 2, Hernandez just rear ends it hard into the right rear. And sends the 46 spinning the 37 into the wall, and then back up to Trey Smith in the 66, who already had damage earlier after getting a wreck, ironically also caused by Dan McTrain during our first caution. Let's go on board with Johnny Hernandez. So he sees McTrain, tries to avoid him by going into the grass, but it was just too late at that point. And it goes back onto the track in front of the 66 of Smith, who also had nowhere to go. Let's go on board with John McFadden, just giving you an idea of how close he was from hitting McTrain off 1. Oh my god, that was really close. That was a great miss there for the Canadian, as they're under caution for the second time here today, Canadian Tire. We'll be right back for the finish of this race. This Wednesday for our final midweek race of the season, the summer series is going to get a little bit dirty at the Outdoor Speedway for the Outdoor Dirt Derby. Coverage will start for the heat race at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time. Meanwhile, here at Canadian Tire, we're about to break green after the 37 of Dan McTrain, who was slow on the racetrack, got hit by Johnny Hernandez and the 66 of Trey Smith. It looks like Smith will be the only driver out of those 3 to be in the garage area and done for the day. Currently, the top 3 is Brayden Beal, Devin Payment, and David Johnson, respectively. As they come off turn number 10, we're back in the green here at Canadian Tire, only 2 laps to go. And already going into turn number 1, Devin will get to the outside of Beal for the lead. And it looks like out of turn number 1, Payment has the advantage over Beal. Devin back to the lead here at Canadian Tire, but down to hill and into turn number 2. Can Beal get that lead back? Looks like he will, going into clean corner. Johnson tucks into 3rd as Payment gets in the grass again. And in the Quebec corner, turn number 3, Payment with the advantage, but Beal is still finding back on the inside as they go up the hill. Down the hill and into turn number 4, Beal is going to clear Payment once again for the lead. But what will Devin do here coming to Moss corner of turn number 5? Johnson on the grass here a little bit as Beal will pull away from Devin Payment and the rest of the field going down Andretti straightaway. There's movement side by side of Rees for 5th. And of course, as I mentioned before the break, none of these drivers have yet to pit. Pit stops will play a factor this time by. And to head down for the S's, the question for many of these drivers, who's going to come in and who's going to stay out to try to make it all the way? What will Beal and Payment do here as Beal and Payment are in? 22 and 88 or down pit road. David Johnson, Jordan Forbes also down pit road as Movement and Reeves will stay out coming to the white flag. 1 lap to go here at Canadian Tire as Movement and Reeves are side by side for the lead. Going into turn number 1, Movement will clear Reeves for the lead. This will be the 3rd lead change of the day, but Reeves is still trying to catch up to the 5. Other cars that stayed out include the 21 of Kellen Baker, the 9 of Lipsy, and the 53 of Random J, as everybody else is down pit road. And of course, if these two run out of gas, Baker, Lipsy, and Random J will be in a prime position to take advantage and win this race. Going down Moss Corner for the final time. Moving for a great run into turn number 5. Looks like out of turn number 5, he'll continue that momentum into Andretti straightaway for the last time. Into turn number 7, movement continuing to pull away as Kellen Baker is actually inching closer and closer to the 16. Will anyone inside this top 5 run out of gas, or will they make it all the way? Down the S as it turns 8 and 9 for the final time, as I think Reeves is out of gas. I'm just not getting run. Reeves is out of gas in the 16. And as Reeves comes down pit road, movement will see the checkered flag and steal one here at Canadian Tire. Kellen Baker ended up finishing second, while Lipsy finished third, as Random J actually ran out of gas going into the S's. Random at the time was 5th, and it looks like he's going to finish below the top 10 in that 53. Definitely not the way the 53 team wanted to end off today. But regardless, congratulations to Movement and Albert Motorsports for their second win of the Summer Series season. Fun fact for Movement, whom we won one lap in this entire day, but was ultimately the most important one, the last one. Well, let's take a look at the finishing results and point standings after today's race. So here we go, Movement the 5 car will get a second career GSS win after his first at Texas World back in race number 3. In addition, this is also Albert Motorsports' second straight win in the Summer Series season, after Nixon's win in Atlanta last week. Speaking of streaks, the 21 and Kellen Baker will finish second for the second race in a row. Nelson Reeves will finish third in the 16, while Lipsy in his home track will come home 4th. And as you may notice, the drivers in the top 4 are the 4 out of the 5 drivers that stayed out, with of course the only exception being the 53 of Random J, who ran out of gas and ended up finishing 19th. So much like at Watkins Glen, the best strategy for these drivers to follow was to stay out and save as much fuel as you can, and for the most part was able to work out for the drivers who did that strategy. Anyways, for the drivers that did pair, Brayden Beal in the 22 was the highest of them all, finishing 5th. And with the 22 leading the most laps, this will be the 5th straight race in a row where the driver that led the most laps did not win the race. So that streak's still alive here in the Summer Series. We'll see if that will get broken at Outdoor this coming Wednesday. Devin Payman in the 88 car finished 6th. David Johnson will finish 7th in the 2. Jason Albert in the 80 car finishes 8th. Jordan Forbes will finish 9th. And running off the top 10 is the 14 of Dan Matteillo. So 3 out of the 4 Albert Racing drivers will finish inside the top 10 here today at Canadian Tire. So definitely a great day for that team. And now for the points after race number 15, and Joe T is still your points leader, this time by 9 over Keith Richardson. So Richardson lost 6 points today here alone. Meanwhile, Kellen Baker up to 3rd in points by 13. Brayden Beal moves up 2 spots up to 5th. While Random J loses 3 positions down to 6th by 27. So the 53 team staying out was on paper the best strategy, but execution did not go well for that team. It was in the top 5 coming to the final corners, but ran out of gas, and like I said, fell to 19th, so that really did hurt that 53 team here in the standings. His teammate Jordan Stout up to 7th by 31, Hold'em down to 8th by 41. He's currently tied with Jason Albert for that position, but currently due to Hold'em's 2 wins versus Albert's 0 wins, Hold'em has the advantage. And running up the top 10 is the 5 of Movement, who moved up 7 positions alone after winning today's race, so that 5 team could definitely be a team to watch out for as you head into August. So next up, race number 16 is our final midweek race of the season at the Outdoor Speedway for the Outdoor Dirt Derby. And of course, one thing to note for this race, there'll be 2 races, a 15-lap heat race and the 80-lap main event. The format's going to be the exact same thing as last year. The bottom 10 in points will compete in the 15-lap race. The top 5 from that heat race will advance over to the 80-lap main event. Coverage for the race will begin on August 4th at 7:45 Eastern Standard Time. So definitely something you're going to want to miss. But as always, y'all, thank you guys for watching this race. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys next time.